is the Jason Walker Show. Two-time National Sports Media Association Montana Sportscaster of the Year, and three-time loser, the Jason Walker Show. The best local and statewide sports coverage, featuring the biggest guests from Montana.
Flint Rasmussen joining us here on the Jason Walker Show.
He's freaking exhausting, too. You used to dance a lot more. Yeah, I know, lady. I'm 51 years old now.
The NAI Hall of Famer Mike Van Diest joining us here, Jason Walker Show. And is it just a deal where quarterbacks have to be good golfers?
Well, that's all they have time for. They don't work out. They don't lift weights. They don't do anything else. They might as well go get on the golf course and at least have some fun.
And from across the country,
Doug Gottlieb, our guest here on the Jason Walker Show.
End of the day, remember, it's your show. It's got your name on it.
Howie Mandel, our guest here.
Jason Walker, deal or no deal?
the Jason Walker Show, broadcasting from the Major Mortgage Man Cave. Here's Jason Walker.
Yo, happy Tuesday. It is the Jason Walker Show. A little technical issue to get going here, which, hey, it's become the new norm, right? I mean, we're kind of used to it. So anyway, big show coming up today. Here in the Major Mortgage Man Cave, we're going to talk about Missoula City County Health Department. We're going to check in with On This Day in History. It's a big day in women's athletics, and we'll explain why. And also going to talk about NASCAR here in a second. And you can watch live on Facebook, Twitter, I believe on YouTube. You can also, where else? Listen on Podbean, Network One Sports, and TreasureStateRadio.com. And very, very soon, we will have a brand new place to listen to as well. So it's going to be very cool. Check out JasonWalkerShow.com. You can email us, tweet us, text us, anything. Also going to check in with Nick McCarvel coming up. It is Pride Month, and Nick's doing some great stuff with Outsports.com. So we'll check in with Nick coming up, a good friend of the show, and a whole lot more. So, all right, let's get started by chatting about the Missoula City County Health Department. We had Jordan Hansen on yesterday, and he was the one that broke the story last Friday about the Mavericks of Missoula, American Legion, getting their tournament canceled by the City County Health Department over in Missoula. According to the Missoulian, so was it Frank Gogola, wrote an update last night. So here it comes. Ready? The reason the health department canceled the Missoula Maverick Memorial Tournament didn't have anything to do with sanitizing or seating or the ability to trace people who attended but were later diagnosed with the COVID. It was basically the round-robin format, according to Shannon Terriold, the environmental health director of the Missoula City County Health Department. So groups that can't follow social distancing to 50 people in those groups of 50, which is crazy because if you have the groups of 50, you have to social distance and then another group of 50. So I'll read exactly. Quote, while fans can stay the necessary 6 feet apart, players batting, running the bases, playing in the field, or just sitting in the dugout would necessarily be within 6 feet of each other at various times, end quote. Which is what I've asked since May when Legion Baseball decided they wanted to try to come back, was how are you going to get everybody in the dugout, 6 feet apart, but the batter, the catcher, the umpire, not 6 feet apart. First baseman and a base runner, not 6 feet apart. Let alone the fans. So it just seems, and this is a very long article. You can read it at Missoulian.com, and I shared it on my Twitter page as well. But this is a whole lot of excuses from the City County Health Department over in Missoula. So the health department was alerted to the tournament, supposedly, when it got a comment on its Facebook page, 8:30 a.m. Thursday, about 2.5 hours before games started. So the Mavs had already put together a plan. They had already said, here's how it's going to work. And then all of a sudden it wasn't approved. And it's just a load of crock, basically. Terry Alt from Missoula County Health Department said, City County Health Department, quote, "We don't want our hospitals overwhelmed. It's all about flattening the curve. We talked about that at the beginning of the pandemic. It's still a thing," end quote. Well, the hospitals weren't overwhelmed in the first place, back in March or April. Was it the hospital in Kalispell that got rid of 600 or furloughed like 600 employees because they weren't busy? Billings was never busy. Bozeman's hospital was never really overwhelmed or busy. Like, what? I mean, this is ridiculous. They're allowed to play doubleheaders against the same team in the same day, but the round-robin format of a tournament was bad because teams were going to play each other throughout the course of the day. Have you ever been to a baseball tournament? That's how they work. Limiting groups to the same 50 people was possible if one team was facing only one other team. Okay. But each team at the tournament was scheduled to play 5 teams. Not at the same time, mind you. Not in the same day, mind you. Just, well, they might play on Sunday, so dang it, we can't play round robin, which is ridiculous. Flat out ridiculous. And I think the Missoula City County Health Department's full of a lot of excuses because they cost the Missoula Mavs a lot of money. They cost the city, potentially, a lot of money infrastructure-wise. Absolutely nuts. Missoula City County Health Department should be ashamed of itself. That's the second time they've told Missoula Mavs they cannot have a tournament. You can read the full article, 406mtsports.com. It's also on my Twitter page. All right. Let's talk some positive news. It was Troy Strong today. Hashtag Troy Strong Blood Drive in the Queen City. And had a great time. The wife donated. For some reason, I got deferred from the Red Cross. I don't know. My name popped up on a do not travel list or something. But anyway, I was there. I wore my shirt, hashtag Troy Strong. The wife donated blood. Lots of people donated blood. And it was awesome to be down there with everybody. And I know we've got Billings coming up a couple of days. They still have some spots open. Bozeman and Great Falls. So make sure you get signed up for the rest of the week in any of your respective cities that you live in. Because in honor of Troy, but, you know, your donation is going to save up to 3 lives. And not to mention, this week, you get free antibody testing for the COVID to see if you've come in contact, if you've had it, if whatever. So, I mean, that in itself is a great reason to go. But the fact that you're saving lives is an even better reason to go. Got to meet the Ross in-laws. So Callie, Mrs. Ross, her parents were down there today. Hung out with Grandma. Got a great picture on her Facebook page. Great family. So hashtag Troy Strong. Get down and get registered if you have not yet for Billings. They got 2 days in Billings. You also have Great Falls. I think a few spots were still open. And yeah, just check it out. Okay, get it done. Donate, because the life you save could be your own. Is that the slogan? It's one of them, or a loved one. But there you go. All right, we're gonna come back. When we do, we're going to talk to Nick McCarvel and about it's Pride Month, so we're going to talk about that. Nick's doing some great work with outsports.com. And there was a tennis party that broke out with a whole bunch of tennis pros testing positive for the COVID. How are we going to have sports? We'll talk to Nick McCarvel next, coming up here, Jason Walker Show. Have you thought about buying a home and just don't know where to begin? Well, when it comes to one of the most important purchases one can make, we understand it can be frustrating and confusing, but it doesn't have to be. Let the Major Mortgage team help you with all your mortgage needs. Major Mortgage means major service, and we would love the opportunity to help you today. Give J.R. McFadden, NMLS number 1246357, a call today at 406-465-1918, or you can visit him at 2001 11th Avenue, Building A, Suite 3 in Helena. Major Mortgage is a division of AMCAP Mortgage, NMLS number 129122, equal housing lender. Father's Day is coming fast, and what more would that great dad in your life want than a full detail from Auto Concepts? Or maybe he would just prefer a lift kit. It's also camping season, and now is the perfect time to outfit that rig with a winch just in case. Auto Concepts is your home for everything for your vehicle, including updating your car stereo system too. Auto Concepts also has gift certificates for dad or yourself. Visit AutoConceptsHelena.com. Auto Concepts, the auto enhancement professionals. Do you love to look at photos of Montana, from animals to landscapes and more? Are you looking for a place to get your senior pictures or family portraits done? Are you a business owner looking to upgrade the decor in your offices? Well, look no further than Marc Laro Photography. Marc has been shooting beautiful photos all across the Treasure State, from rodeos to portraits, and would love to work with you. Visit MarcLaroPhotography.com to see many masterpieces of his work, then give him a call to schedule your own photo shoot. Or to purchase one of his fantastic pieces, stop by Spirit of the Big Sky Gallery on Custer in Helena. MarcLaroPhotography.com. Yes, it's true that Montana is a long way from the Gulf Coast, but you can bring that Cajun flavor home with a stop at Cafe Zydeco. From po' boys to classic sandwiches, Cafe Zydeco has all the best Cajun in town. Are you in the mood for seafood gumbo or crawfish etouffee? Maybe you're craving jambalaya with some shrimp and grits. Head in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or call ahead for pickup or delivery. Cafe Zydeco will fix all your southern cravings, even on a chilly Montana day. Cafe Zydeco is a proud sponsor of The Jason Walker Show.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call State Farm agent Mike Miller in Helena today.
I'm done with this.
Thinking about trying something new? The Montana Air National Guard has so many exciting career fields to choose from, many that can open up opportunities in your civilian life. The best part? You'll be getting paid to learn a new trade skill right here at home. What are you waiting for? Let's get you in school and get you paid. Contact Leak Fecto at 406-788-8962.
Dinner's Done Right is open and ready for you to stop in and stock up for the summer. How does a Big Sky flank steak sound? Or a sage roasted pork loin? June's menu also includes a Parmesan tilapia and a variety of fantastic chicken cuisines and more. And if that's not enough, Dinner's Done Right's Grab and Go Soup, Salad, and Nacho Bar is back as well, with one exception. The delightful staff now will make it for you. And don't forget deliveries to Bozeman and Great Falls on select days. Stop in at 1212 Cedar Street in Helena or visit dinnersdoneright.com.
June is anniversary month at Rucker's Furniture, and you won't believe the savings you'll find on the largest selection of home furnishings in Helena. At Rucker's, you'll find sofas, sleepers, recliners, reclining sofas, leather, bedroom, dining room, occasional tables, entertainment consoles, Serta iComfort, the most comfortable beds in town, and more. 12-month financing is available with approved credit on most purchases over $299. Ask for details. For great values on new looks for your home, shop the anniversary sale at Rucker's Furniture, 1010 Dearborn, Helena.
Welcome back to the Jason Walker Show.
All right, welcome back on a Tuesday. Jason Walker Show, Major Mortgage Man Cave. Probably should get some cameras going open up here. There we go. Segment brought to you by Rucker's Furniture. Make the quality choice for your home at Rucker's Furniture, 1010 Dearborn. Helena, after all these years, finally got a friend request on Facebook from Scotty Rucker, so that's nice. All right, let's see. Coming up on this day in history, we're going to talk NASCAR and a whole lot more, but I want to welcome in our guest. Let's see if I do this right. I've never done this. Do we have him? Nick McCarvel. Hey, you looking good, my friend?
Hey, Jason. How are you? Thanks for having me back.
It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I've never tried this camera thing, AirLink, before. It's new, but it seems to be working, so I like it better than Zoom.
I mean, I see myself. I don't see you, but
you don't see me.
If you can see and hear me, then I'm happy for you.
Well, you are perfect. I can say that. I can hear you and see you. So you're supposed to be able to see me. I'll figure that out. Hey, Nick McCarvel joining us here, and Mike Miller, State Farm Hotline. It is a big month. It is Pride Month, and with everything going on in the country, it almost appears, Nick, as if it's gotten pushed to the back of everybody's minds, it seems like.
Yeah, every June we celebrate Pride Month, the inclusion for LGBT people in society. And obviously for me as a queer person in sports, that means trying to bring awareness to those stories out there of athletes coming out and being who they are on the playing field, on the court. For me, as a tennis and figure skating journalist in those realms as well. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that there's been bigger issues at hand with Black Lives Matter and what we've seen in COVID-19 for this country. So, we're at a really interesting moment in time. I know there was a huge march last weekend in Brooklyn that some of my friends went to in New York City that was supporting Black trans women and the rights that they need to and should have in our society. So, yeah, listen, there's a lot of different hot topics going on right now, but I've been able to do some Pride stuff, which has been pretty cool. And I don't think we don't just sequester it to June. I think they're year-round stories, but it's obviously nice as a minority, LGBT people in our country, to have a little bit of highlighting going on during the month of June.
Nick McCarvel, our guest here. One of the things you're able to do is you're able to, Nick, chat with other gay athletes, which is fantastic with outsports.com. And I know they've been a big part of your life as well.
Yeah, Outsports has been awesome. I've teamed up with them this month to do a series called LGBT Tennis on their Instagram. Outsports is a queer and LGBTQ plus inclusive website that does all things sports, obviously, hence the name. But we've talked about it before, Jason. In the last couple of years, I've done a series of queer panels in professional tennis. Billie Jean King has been involved. We've had all sorts of celebrities from within the tennis world talking about queer issues within the sport of tennis as well as within sports in general. So it's been really good to have those panels and discussions and gatherings the last couple of years at the Grand Slams in tennis. And we decided to take those online this month for Pride Month. We've done 3. I've got one more this evening and then another one tomorrow night. So Outsports has been super supportive of that. And it's just been great, I think, to have those conversations, just like this. You've got 2 people going back and forth talking about ideas. It's my job as the questioner to try and drive some of that conversation for these people that have really, bared their soul out there, whether they're athletes or representatives within the sporting industry. It takes some bravery, and I'm happy to highlight those stories.
Nick, I got to ask you this because you've used the word queer, and to me, that sounds wrong as a non-gay person. So do I say gay? Do I say queer? I mean, this is like a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago about Black Lives Matter. As a straight white man, I just don't know which terms. I mean, I know what terms not to use, but which terms is okay.
Yeah, totally. And these are the kind of conversations we should be having. And for me, as a white person with you, I'm learning a lot in Black Lives Matter and learning the privilege that we've lived in this world with that we didn't even realize we had for a long time, especially for me growing up in Montana, now living in New York and traveling the world as a tennis journalist. Queer is really a word that the community, the LGBT LGBTQ plus community has reclaimed in a sense. So it's a word that's all inclusive. So as a gay man, I am a queer person. A lesbian could or maybe could not identify as a queer person. It's up to them, but it's an all encompassing umbrella. And for a lot of people, the Q in LGBTQ plus includes queer because it includes people who don't necessarily feel as though that they are straight or that they're heterosexual. And so, yes, it is a term that I will empower you to use in the future, Jason.
Okay, because it sounded wrong for me to be able to say that.
Sure.
You know, if you know what I'm, from my aspect anyway.
Of course, yeah, and I think we should all use language that we're comfortable with. And I've actually done a couple of these panels, as I was telling you about, where the guests have said the same thing to me. You're saying queer. It's a word that, for me and my friends in New York City, we've certainly reclaimed it. And I think if you look at a lot of the language around LGBTQ plus sporting alliances, HRC, the Trevor Project, any of these out and queer leading organizations, they're going to be happy to use that word too. So long ago, yes, it was derogatory. It was a word that, and that's probably where you have the hesitation around using it. But it is a word that we in the community, in the gay community, feel empowered by, and a little bit of kind of reclaiming a word that was used against us, and now we can use it for us.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I appreciate that because, like I said, it's just Nick McCarvel joining us on the Mike Miller State Farm Hotline. Tennis, and you also cover figure skating, and you think of gay or queer in figure skating, and Johnny Weir comes to mind, and a lot of male figure skaters. But it's not as big of a deal to be gay anymore in the world of figure skating as it was, say, 10, even 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, well put. Johnny Weir came out after his career, even though there were questions around his sexuality for a long time while he was competing, a two-time Olympian. I actually am working on a piece right now for U.S. Figure Skating about just not a full, but a shortened history of out queer figure skaters. And there's been actually very few. This is a sport that I think a lot of people, your wife might watch figure skating during the Olympics. You might only watch it once every 4 years. It's not necessarily a sport that you're turning on every Friday night. But what these athletes are able to do is astronomical. It's incredible. They're flying across the ice on these tiny blades. So the article that I'm working on right now is inclusive of Johnny and really tells the story of a lot of different gay men within figure skating and also women who don't identify as straight. So Karina Manta is a top level ice dancer in the US, and she came out as bisexual a couple of years ago. And just this past season, Amber Glenn is a top 5 US single skater. She came out as well. And so it's been interesting for me to see the female perspective as well. And these guys are up against it too. There's a lot of heteronormativity within figure skating. That comes from the judging panels, from coaches, from officials. So it's been intriguing for me to work on. Adam Rapon has ended up being a good friend of mine. He was the first out American figure skater at the Olympics in 2018. Gus Kenworthy competed there as well in slopestyle as a skier. So we're seeing it more and more in figure skating, but while it may have not necessarily been an atmosphere like, say, the NFL or some of these big team sports in the States, it's still an issue where once again, we talk about inclusivity, and it feels foreign a little bit because I think a lot of people listening and watching here in Helena, the outness of athletes or queer inclusion in sports or LGBTQ plus, those just aren't really Helena buzzwords. And so I think that for this small community where I grew up and where you call home and where my parents still live, I think that just these little issues, if we can just be open to those ideas and people that are different than us, that goes a long way.
Nick McCarvel, our guest here, Jason Walker Show. Did Johnny Weir make it normal to be gay in figure skating? Because we had questions about a few guys before, and whether they were or weren't, it didn't matter to me. But it's almost like Johnny made it cool, because he's got the NBC gig with you. And I don't mean that to be a bad way to say it. It's just there's not the stigma. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's Johnny Weir, it's Adam Rapon who's on Dancing with the Stars now, and becoming more than just a queer figure skater.
I've got a fire truck just going.
Oh, jeez.
Good timing.
Yeah.
I think for me, you look at someone like Johnny Weir, who had a great rivalry with Evan Lysacek. They were two of the best men's figure skaters that we've had in this country for the last 20 years. Both two-time Olympians. Evan won gold at Vancouver in 2010. Johnny was sixth that year. Johnny is a world medalist. He's obviously a face I think a lot of people, and name that you guys would recognize at home because he is partnered with Tara Lipinski on the NBC broadcast with Terry Gannon now. Normal, cool, those aren't necessarily words that I would use, but I see what you mean, Jason. He has helped move the needle forward. So you look at someone like Brian Boitano, who has come out in the last 10 years. He's the 1988 Olympic gold medalist in figure skating. He basically said to me that he was told, don't come out, don't talk about your boyfriends, don't do any of these things that are true to who you are as a person, because you need sponsors, you need to sell tickets, you need TV deals. And this is back in the late 80s and then mid 90s when he competed in 94, once figure skating was essentially opened up to professional figure skaters at the Olympics. So thereafter you had Rudy Galindo, who was our first out and open gay figure skater on the men's side in the US. He won the national title in 1996. But Adam, I think Johnny really helped move the conversation forward, helped move the needle forward.
Sure.
And Johnny also, I spoke with him last week for this article we're working on, and I said, you did such a good job of being so expressive and true to yourself and who you are on the ice as an artist, and that people loved that about Johnny. He was just kind of one of a kind. And he said, that actually, to me, doesn't have anything to do with my sexuality. It's just who I am. So I thought that was interesting because for me, even as a gay reporter, I was like, well, you're being artsy and expressive, and it's Johnny. That's who you are as a gay man. And he's saying, no, hold on. This is who I am as an artist. This is how I express myself. And yes, I'm also gay. But there's also the conversations for us within the community of, how to address these things, how to move it forward, how to have these conversations. Sometimes it can be awkward for me because I'm still learning myself. Right. And so Johnny definitely, I think, helped push things forward. Adam told me in an interview last week as well, Adam Rapon, that he felt like he was empowered by Johnny. Adam came out in 2015 and then made the Olympic team in 2018. But Adam also said that he felt like he worked really hard to really show that he was not just another Johnny. So people knew that he was gay. He wasn't necessarily.
Oh, and we lost, did we lose him? Lost Nick. There we go. You're back.
You lost me?
Yeah, just for a second, but you're back. But yeah, Adam is different than Johnny. And I think that's cool because, I didn't want to say normal and whatnot, like, I get you said, but it's like, again, this is a conversation that I'm new to having, and I think it's a conversation that needs to happen, just like I did a couple of weeks ago with some of my black friends with Black Lives Matter. Nick McCarvel joining us here. All right, so today is the anniversary of Title IX and what it did for women in sports and women in general, for whether it's in the offices or the business, but mainly we think of Title IX, women in sports. There's a long way to go with Title IX. Is there more of a long way to go for the gay community as far as getting the word out that, we need help, we need you to understand us, we need, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think, listen, Title IX has done wonders for women's sports, for female sports. I work, almost full-time professionally in tennis, and it is the #1 women's sports league in the world, the WTA. And Billie Jean King was a driver of that. I think Title IX, obviously on the collegiate level, really helped. It gave opportunities to young women. When you look at it from a queer perspective, from a gay sporting perspective, I think it's important to make sure we're telling individual stories. So there's not a separate class for LGBT competitors. And so for women's sports, I think it's about visibility, it's about sponsorship dollars, it's about opportunity, it's about really trying to push forward so that they have equality within the sporting space. And then I think for the queer community, which there's a lot of female athletes who are out and proud and representative of us, on fields and courts all over the world, is making sure that we tell those individual stories, and that, yes, it's okay to be different, and that we're all cut from the same cloth, even though it might be colored in different ways. And so, I think women are always fighting that uphill battle of trying to get men's, for us in tennis, it's trying to make sure the two tours are working together as much as possible. And sometimes you can see them kind of butting heads. And so I think there are two different issues to me, but yes, any minority within sport, you look at a lot of the players within the NFL. Bubba Wallace is facing a big moment right now in NASCAR. You look at a lot of these black players in the NCAA, the football players who are standing up for themselves and saying, hold on, we need better representation. We need to be better respected. Because when you look at a lot of American sporting leagues, especially the NFL, Jason, you've got people of color. You've got young black men who are essentially driving an entire economy that is mostly consumed by white people.
Right.
And so, and of course, people of color are fans of those sports too. But those minority stories are what is so important, whether that be women's stories, black stories, or queer stories, trying to, and here we are as two white men talking about
right.
So, but it's good conversations for us to have and try to figure out how do we give those voices more amplification.
Nick McCarvel joining us, Jason Walker Show. All right, let's talk some tennis. U.S. Open came out last week and said, we're going ahead. There's just not going to be any fans. How's this going to look? I'll stick with that question first.
Okay. So the U.S. Open announced just last week, last Wednesday, that they were going ahead with at least a skeleton structure of what we know the U.S. Open to be. So they'll have the main singles draws in both the men's and women's sides. They'll have a truncated doubles draw. They will not have mixed doubles, and they will not have kind of the extraneous events. So that includes legends, juniors, wheelchair event, the qualifying, which is the players ranked just below that main draw cutoff of 128. They don't have a way to get into the tournament. Usually they can try to win 3 matches, and that gives them the opportunity to play at the U.S. Open. It's going to be strict as heck. I mean, they're talking about a couple of hotels that the players are going to use. They're talking about regular testing. Players are limited to at most 3 people in their team, or that they can credential to bring with them. A lot of the top players made issue with that. Basically, the USTA is trying to save some sort of TV product, Jason, to bring to fans all over the world. We have no Wimbledon this year for the first time since World War II. The French Open has been delayed until late September. It's going to be strange. No fans on site whatsoever. You've got empty stadiums. I don't know if ESPN is going to pipe in crowd noise or not. That's not something I've heard quite yet. But the idea is that we need professional tennis back. The tours are going to return a little bit before the U.S. Open. And these players are going to face a big choice on, do you adhere to all the social distancing measures, the regular testing, 3 people on your team, you've got a tournament bubble, you're wearing a mask all the time. I mean, these are things that we're seeing in a place like New York where I live, but not necessarily in Helena, Montana. Right. So it's going to be a big challenge. I was just speaking with Riley Opelka, who's the number 3 American, yesterday. And he was just saying he felt like it was nearly impossible for the players to adhere to all of these rules, essentially, that the USTA are putting out. But I think, there's no returning to normal right now for sports. And so I think for these bigger entities, the NBA, the NHL, PGA, everyone's just looking at how do we put out some sort of product that drives the sporting economy a little bit, gives a TV product to all you fans at home to watch, and also is as safe as possible. And the safety has to come first, and that's really the biggest challenge out of all of it.
Nick McCarvel joining us. I mentioned this last week when they brought this up, and no fans. And to me, Wimbledon is kind of stuffy. The French, it's not my favorite. But when you think of the Australian Open and you think of the U.S. Open, you think of those Marcos Bagdatis at the Aussie Open back in, 05 or 06, and the late night crowds and the cheering, and you think of Jimmy Connors back in, I think, 1991, and the late night New York crowd. That's going to be different. And if somebody's playing at midnight and there's none of that fiery passion from the crowd, it's going to be just like watching a high school tennis match.
Yeah, it's gonna be strange. You must have been at a couple of my high school tennis matches because there were about 0 people there.
No, but I've covered high school and college.
No, you're right. I think sporting leagues are facing that all over the world. You know, you look at Bundesliga in Germany with the soccer resumption. I think a lot of the PGA and NASCAR events haven't had fans. Some of them have talked about having them moving forward, but I think it's going to be a huge challenge for the players when you think of, like, you walk out on the stage, you've got the energy, you've got the music, please welcome from Switzerland, Roger Federer. I mean, none of that is going to be surrounding the atmosphere. It's going to have to be self-created. So I think it's going to actually give us an opportunity to see who our true best fighters are in the sport.
Yep.
I kind of fall on the side of I'd like to see ESPN put crowd noise in for the TV product. I think that that's a better experience at home.
Interesting.
That's going to be up to the USTA and ESPN to decide that, Jason. It's going to be especially tough, I think, for both the men and the women to figure out when you're at 5-5 in the third set on the women's side or fifth set on the men's side, where do you dig deep to find your best tennis? Because there's no crowd there that you can hear that's cheering you on. So I will be interested. I think the USTA might come up with some creative stuff, whether they pipe in crowd noise or DJs, or, you know, we've seen some of these leagues in Asia have put in actual, like, fake fans. Like, you've seen cardboard cutouts and LED screens with fan watch parties and all that kind of stuff. Watch the space on how that is actually going to play out for the U.S. Open.
It's going to be really just strange. And, you know, I brought her up with you before, Melanie Oudin. You think back to her run at the Open, you know, what it seems like a decade ago now. But how much of that was driven off the crowd and rooting for the underdog, because the crowd always roots for the underdog until you get to the finals and you get, you know, Roger and Rafa and Novak and those guys. And then it's just, well, they're going to be Roger fans no matter what. But it's going to be interesting. Do you get to go, or do you have to cover it? Because they're not allowing a ton of reporters there either, right?
Yeah, so they haven't, or they've told the international press that they're not credentialing media. So that would be, you know, written press, people from places like the New York Times, Associated Press, Reuters. They're meant to cover the event from afar. Last year, I served on a digital streaming show called US Open Now that's been canceled for 2020. I'm kind of up in the air. I don't know if I'm commentating or if they're going to do some sort of offshoot digital show. So I'm just not sure whether I'll end up being there. I'd like to be, but I also understand that they're trying to keep as few people as possible on site. And so if my services aren't needed, then I'm going to be like you and watching all of it from home.
We'll have watch parties here in the Major Mortgage Man Cave. Couple final questions for Nick McCarvel here on the Mike Miller State Farm Hotline. You mentioned the safety. You mentioned COVID-19, and Novak Djokovic had a big party over the weekend or some time ago, and there's a whole bunch of people testing positive, including Novak and his wife, which is interesting to me because we're seeing it with college football players. We're seeing it with certain pros athletes that are starting to come back. But how are they going to, you know, if Novak has it and then it trickles down? I don't even have a question. It's just, it's odd that how are we going to have this? How are we going to have sports for the next 6 months?
Yeah, so Novak Djokovic was one of the organizers in what was called the Adria Tour, and it took place, you're right, last week in a series of different cities. It started in Belgrade in Serbia, where Novak is from. It also made its way to Croatia. And Jason, the big issue here was that part of the world hasn't been impacted by COVID-19 quite the same way that the U.S. has. So I kind of liken it to Montana, where the case levels are so low, they don't feel like they need to shut everything down. You know, I feel like Helena has been kind of back up and at him now for a few weeks, which is, we're lucky in that sense that we're in Montana, we're a little bit removed. But pretty much no social distancing measures were put in place for this event. They had thousands of people in the crowd. The players were interacting without social distancing, without masks. There weren't regular testing. And the big criticism for Djokovic, Jason, is that he brought players from all over the world. So you've got Grigor Dimitrov, Dominic Thiem, Sasha Zverev.
Wow.
Those are all guys who have been within the top 5, and they've gone far at Grand Slams. And they were coming from different parts of the world. And so that was the big issue, is that you didn't have initial testing, and to bring them into Serbia, and they're playing basketball, they're doing soccer, they're doing kind of all these kids' day activities between the matches. You mentioned the nightclub dancing. They went out one night in Serbia and kind of had this big celebration party of, tennis feels like it's back.
Right.
And the biggest issue out of this is that Novak Djokovic is our world number 1 in tennis. He is a spokesman that someone like you in Helena, Montana, you can say his name and you know his name. And I think a lot of the people watching will know who Novak Djokovic is. He has that kind of platform. So does Roger, so does Rafa, so does Serena. And you've got to think of yourself as a leader right now when we're in a global pandemic, because as much as it feels like we're not, or it feels like we'd like to fight against the fact that COVID-19 is a global pandemic, it is.
Right.
And so to bring those players in, to have the news coverage, to have it on TV, they had 4,000 people in Belgrade.
Wow.
They've ended up now with 4 players testing positive. I believe 9 people from the player camps in total. And Novak Djokovic's positive test did come back today. So a lot of apologies being made. I just felt like the thing was a whole mess. I tweeted a couple weeks ago, I thought it was shocking. I still think it's shocking. I don't know why our world number 1 in tennis can't be a better leader when it comes to something like this. But there have been calls now for him to step aside from the ATP Player Council, where he is the president. But this is where we need our athletes to be leaders. And you look at it in movements like Black Lives Matter, and you look at it from a lot of different iterations of how do we trust athletes with their platforms. And this one, to me, using a tennis term, was an unforced error from Djokovic completely.
I like that. That was a nice little tennis pun you throw in there. I think the video of everybody dancing topless at the nightclub really is the one that stood out to everybody today.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Kyrgios has been outspoken. He's the Australian headline maker in men's tennis, and he's been outspoken about how this is his word or phrase, boneheaded, all of it has been. And when Nick Kyrgios is your voice of reason,
Something's wrong.
Really like to respect Nick a lot, but that's a scary place for us to be in.
I completely agree, and everybody who knows the tennis knows who Nick Kyrgios is. He seems to have calmed down in the last couple of years, though, a little bit.
Kind of.
Kind of. Okay. Well, we also haven't been able to watch tennis for a few months now. Anything you wanted to add, Nick? Because, like I said, this was, to me, the beginning of this conversation was very important and I think needed to be heard here in Helena and across the state of Montana.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you, Jason, of having me on, and we've got our friendship off camera. But I think that these are issues of Black Lives Matter and queer inclusion in sports and women's sports. I mean, these are important issues on a global scale. And when you look at Montana athletics, I'm not as dialed in as I once was, but I think these are little issues that might be uncomfortable or awkward, or how do we talk about it? Or you even asking me, can I use the word queer? These are the kind of conversations that even I'm having to try to better educate myself. And it's up to us as, individuals that live every day in this world to try to educate ourselves better. Happy Olympic Day. Today's Olympic Day. I'm seeing a lot of that on social media, so that's cool. And I just did a series with Wimbledon. I helped produce a series of 4 documentaries. They put out the first one last week on Venus Williams, celebrating her 20th anniversary from her first Wimbledon win in 2000. And we had Serena narrate that, which is pretty cool. And then we've got a couple more coming out, one on Pete Sampras, one on Martina Navratilova. And then, pretty excited about the stuff that we've done.
Outsports.com. I think we lost connection. Are you back? I hear kids.
I think I lost you.
I think I have you now. We'll let you go, Nick. I appreciate it, and our system froze up, so we'll just say goodbye, and I'll text you.
You still got me, Jason?
Yep, I do. But I don't know if you have me. Do you have me? No, I think we're done. I'll let Nick go, and I'll text him, and our computer system froze, and I appreciate Nick joining us, and we'll get him back on again. But outsports.com, you can follow him at Nick McCarvel on the Twitter as well. So check it out. We'll be right back. Jason Walker Show. Do you love to look at photos of Montana, from animals to landscapes and more? Are you looking for a place to get your senior pictures or family portraits done? Are you a business owner looking to upgrade the decor in your offices? Well, look no further than Marc Laro Photography. Marc has been shooting beautiful photos all across the Treasure State, from rodeos to portraits, and would love to work with you. Visit MarcLaroPhotography.com to see many masterpieces of his work, then give him a call to schedule your own photo shoot. Or to purchase one of his fantastic pieces, stop by Spirit of the Big Sky Gallery on Custer in Helena. MarcLaroPhotography.com.
June is anniversary month at Rucker's Furniture, and you won't believe the savings you'll find on the largest selection of home furnishings in Helena. At Rucker's, you'll find sofas, sleepers, recliners, reclining sofas, leather, bedroom, dining room, occasional tables, entertainment consoles. June is anniversary month at Rucker's Furniture, and you won't believe the savings you'll find on the largest selection of home furnishings in Helena. At Rucker's, you'll find sofas, sleepers, recliners, reclining sofas, leather, bedroom, dining room, occasional tables, entertainment consoles, Serta iComfort, the most comfortable beds in town, and more. 12-month financing is available with approved credit on most purchases over $289. Ask for details. For great values on new looks for your home, shop the anniversary sale at Rucker's Furniture, 1010 Dearborn, Helena.
Yes, it's true that Montana is a long way from the Gulf Coast, but you can bring that Cajun flavor home with a stop at Cafe Zydeco. From po' boys to classic sandwiches, Cafe Zydeco has all the best Cajun in town. Are you in the mood for seafood gumbo or crawfish etouffee? Maybe you're craving jambalaya with some shrimp and grits. Head in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or call ahead for pickup or delivery. Cafe Zydeco will fix all your southern cravings, even on a chilly Montana day. Cafe Zydeco is a proud sponsor of The Jason Walker Show. Have you thought about buying a home and just don't know where to begin? Well, when it comes to one of the most important purchases one can make, we understand it can be frustrating and confusing, but it doesn't have to be. Let the Major Mortgage team help you with all your mortgage needs. Major Mortgage means major service, and we would love the opportunity to help you today. Give J.R. McFadden, NMLS number 1246357, a call today at 406-465-1918. Or you can visit him at 2001 11th Avenue, Building A, Suite 3 in Helena. Major Mortgage is a division of AMCAP Mortgage, NMLS number 129122, equal housing lender. Welcome back, Jason Walker Show. I think we're on the air. We may not have video, but we are definitely chatting. Good song. This segment brought to you by Marc Laro Photography. Make sure you check out MarcLaroPhotography.com. And if you book your senior portrait or family portraits, mention you heard it on the Jason Walker Show, you'll get a free 8x10 canvas or matte print. And if you purchase anything from Spirit of the Big Sky Gallery, Marc's going to give you 20% off if you mention the Jason Walker Show. Special thanks to Nick McCarvel for joining us, and I appreciate the conversations that we've had, with Nick today, with Ife Kalajaye, with Anthony Owens this month as well. These are conversations that need to be heard in the world of sports, in the world of Montana. And if you don't feel the same, then I feel bad for you. But I do think these are actual, conversations that have to happen. And appreciate our guests for being able and willing to chat about, things. And it might make you uncomfortable. There's things that, I've been uncomfortable listening or asking lately. But we all have to learn. We all have to be better. And these are why we can have these conversations. Speaking of conversations, there is going to be a lot. So the FBI came out today. 14 federal agents were sent to Talladega, Alabama. The noose found hanging in Bubba Wallace's garage stall at Talladega Superspeedway had been there since at least last October. There was video floating around on the internet the last couple of days. You remember a crew member for Richard Petty Motorsports discovered the noose Sunday at the Alabama racetrack. NASCAR was alerted. contacted the FBI. Oh, by the way, they sent 15, not 14, but 15 agents who determined no federal crime was committed. Now, I'm sure you've heard the story by now. Bubba Wallace, he is the lone black racer in NASCAR and drives for Richard Petty Motorsports. And there was video floating around the last couple of days from NASCAR tracks showing garage door. This is how they close the garage doors with a rope, and it's shaped like a noose. It's also shaped a little bit like when you're threading a fishing line. And the video that's been out and about confirmed by NASCAR the noose had been there since last October 2019. And a lot of garages have this exact same look. Now, the noose, according to the FBI, was known to have been in the garage number 4 in October last year. Nobody could have known that Mr. Wallace would be getting garage number 4 this last week. That's from the FBI. So no charges have been filed. Remember, Wallace a couple of weeks ago got NASCAR to successfully ban the Confederate flag at its venues. In fact, it was just last week that happened. But so there you go. And a lot of people are calling him, what was it, Jussie Smollett. Bubba did not find the noose. It was a crew member who found the noose, told NASCAR, and then NASCAR told Bubba. So this isn't whatever his name is, Jussie Smollett, who faked his own ass whooping to try to start issues with, because he's black. And said that white people beat him up, when in reality it was a couple of black guys, and Chicago is bungling everything. Anyway, so no NASCAR stuff filed, no charges filed. NASCAR and the FBI. It was not a hate crime. By the way, tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, Out Sports Insta Live on the Instagram is where you can watch Nick McCarvel chat with Rowan D'Souza to discuss building an LGBTQ inclusive tennis league. That is on Outsports Instagram Live tonight, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Nick's a great friend of the show, so appreciate him joining us. All right, this segment brought to you by Marc Laro Photography, and Marc is fantastic. Love his work. If the cameras weren't froze right now, I'd show you everything, but the great piece of work that sits behind me, but I'm sure you've seen it before. So, and if you haven't, you'll see it tomorrow. Anyway, go to marclarophotography.com. Okay, let's see. Let's get to On This Day in History. It is brought to you by the Motherlode Sports Bar, Casino, and Restaurant. Today is June the 23rd. It is National Pink Day. It is National Hydration Day. It is also National Pecan Sandies Day. 1917, Ernie Shore entered the game after Boston Red Sox pitcher Babe Ruth was ejected for throwing a punch at an umpire. Ernie Shore then retired all 26 batters he faced. Babe Ruth faced 1. Ernie Shore then faced 26 to win 4-0. The ruled a combined no-hitter, even though Ernie Shore did all the work except for 1. 1922, on this date, at the Open Championship in Britain, Royal St. George's, Walter Hagen becomes the first American-born winner. 1939, Bronco Nagurski beat Lou Tess in Houston to win the National Wrestling Association World Heavyweight title. 1955, Lady and the Tramp was released. I'm sure it'll be just a matter of time before most Disney movies are banned, because that's cancel culture today. 1969, Joe Frazier, TKO Jerry Quarry in 8 for the heavyweight boxing title. 1972, President Nixon signed an act barring sex discrimination in college sports. It became known as Title IX. It is a very important piece of legislation. It is not just an opinion. It is, in fact, the law. And we know of a couple of lawsuits against a local college that very interesting that we're still keeping an eye on. This date, 1982, 117 degrees below zero, the all-time low at the South Pole. 1989, Batman premiered, the original, directed by Tim Burton, with the best Batman, Michael Keaton. 1993, Lorena Bobbitt amputates her husband's, John Wayne Bobbitt's, he got bobbited. She cut off his deuter, his manhood, on this date, 1993. Amputate. I would say she cut it off. I mean, she was pissed. 1929, happy birthday, June Carter Cash. The Walker family related to the Carter family, including June Carter. 1940, Wilma Rudolph was born. 3 Olympic golds in the 100, the 200, the 4x1 in 1960. She was born in Tennessee on this date, passed away in 1994. But happy birthday to Wilma Rudolph. And 1 death on this date in 1969, Charles Hollis Chuck Taylor, the American basketball player and shoe salesman. He passed away in 1969, but the Chuck Taylor shoe was named after him. That is on this day in history. It is brought to you by the Motherlode Sports Bar, Casino, and Restaurant, and we get to this.
We're almost at the end of the show. What did we learn? And what did he miss? Time for the walk-off.
All right, our stuff is still shut off, so there you go. What did we miss today? We missed the end of our conversation with Nick McCarvel. But you can go to Outsports Instagram tonight at 6 o'clock and catch Nick in action and an important conversation he's having. And we always appreciate Nick joining us here on the Jason Walker Show. All right, we're taking a live look thanks to EarthCam. That is Times Square, I think looking south. But thanks for joining us today. Thanks to Nick McCarvel for joining us today. Tomorrow, Luke Denherter will be here. Yes. Whoa. Luke Denherter will be in the Major Mortgage Man Cave. Looking forward to that. And some surprises coming up for the end of the week as well. The walk-off brought to you by Cafe Zydeco, 625 Euclid in Helena. Also Bozeman and Billings Shrimp Etouffee. It's my favorite. Check it out for dinner. Jason Walker Show. Back tomorrow at 4. JasonWalkerShow.com. If you missed anything, we'll see you then.
Jason Walker Show is produced by the Jason Walker Media Company. Any reuse, rebroadcast, or retransmission without the express written consent of the Jason Walker Show is strictly prohibited. Just listen, watch, and enjoy.